knowing how many items they sell a day, a week, or a month, we can extrapolate that into an annual number and say this is your impact on the environmental impact for the year.
Hi there, it's another episode of our SaaS and Tech interviews with expert, and our guest today is Carolyn Thompson. Carolyn is a business leader with a 20 years experience in healthcare industry, and nowadays she is a CEO and a founder of Aravenda Consignment software. Hi, Carolyn.
Hi, how are you?
For your time. I'm okay. How are you doing?
Good.
It's a great pleasure to have you here today. The topic we've chosen to talk is a sustainable and ethical edge for SaaS companies. But before we go into that, could you please tell a couple of words about yourself, about your company, and whom you're serving?
Sure. Aravenda is software as a service for resellers globally. So anybody who has a store, whether it's online, brick and mortar, or a combination thereof, people are able to curate collections of items and sell them to their customers. So people who resell, as an example, high-end handbags or luxury shoes or sneakers. We have a lot of sneaker resellers across the world. They're reselling a wide variety of types of, Air Jordans and things like that. Furniture, art, jewelry, all kinds of things. Kids items, whether they're doing it in store, online, or even in a collection format that is like a swap meet or a consignment fair. So they just have events for the weekend. The software is pretty powerful. It can power all that. So people who have one location, or we have some clients that have hundreds of locations that use our software.
Beautiful. And what inspired you to start Aravenda? And do you remember any particular moments that seems meaningful to you, some sort of milestones?
Yes. So I had my own resale company, and I, at the time, had chosen the legacy provider in the industry to use for software, because I thought, well, gosh, you should use the oldest one who's been around the longest. Well, that proved to be a really bad idea, because what had happened was they had built add-ons to their software over time.
Yeah.
And it was all based on old technology. So probably, I don't know, gosh, but when you were in, grade school and you had to dial into a server and wait for it, you hear like the modem go. I could literally hear the modem going in the background sometimes, like in my mind,
Right.
But that's how it worked. It was Cisco dial-up technology. So you had to sync every time you added items to the inventory list. You had to push the sync button, which was literally what it was doing, was dialing it up. So every time Windows would have an update, the printers would go offline. We had to reset the printer spool every time. So as Windows, of course, evolved, this is probably 8 to 10 years ago now, but still, it's still happening, because I talked to somebody else who's on their software last week who's converting to ours, and she says it still happens every time.
Yeah.
They didn't take the time to innovate, to be able to say, this is where technology is now, and we should be migrating everybody to a new platform. They just kept building on the old platform because, they got complacent and happy. They had the industry leader, they had the legacy people, and now a lot of those people are trying to sell their stores and retire. Newer people are buying these businesses, and they want to be able to operate their business on their phone. So we are the only software in the area that is not only both woman owned and led. It's the only software that we actually use our own software. My store still runs on our software, so we use it every day. And the fact that somebody could run the entire business on their phone without using an app. So all the other competitors have limited functionality apps that they use. So
amazing. And do you remember the particular moment when you decided, hey, I can do that? Have you had some struggles? Have you had some doubts? Have you had some, insecurities, business doubts that appeared in your head?
Well, I had some interns in for, they needed a project to complete for graduation. So they were in the office helping me with, because I am an online only store, We take shipments from all over the country. So we had an automated inbound shipping label process that needed to be built in. It looked automated to the customer, but it was not automated behind the scenes. So I thought when they told me they needed a project, as a friend of mine's son, he's like, I need a project. I'm like, I have the perfect project for you. They came in, the interns came in and said, this software is horrible. And I'm like, don't I know it? So that was the moment. They're like, we should do this. I'm like, okay. Right. Okay. So no, sadly, I'm not plagued with self-doubt, sadly.
Okay, beautiful. So you came out of need.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And I'm going through your CV. I can see that you work with many SaaS companies, smaller, bigger, including the biggest and the most well-known probably SaaS companies in the world. You work with a Salesforce, with a Zendesk, you work with a Workday. Do you have any observation working with so many SaaS companies and with great SaaS companies? What sets great SaaS company apart from the rest? What does it take to become one of the most impactful, one of the most well-known, one of the biggest SaaS companies? And
so I think some of that has to do with listening to the customers. We have an innovation team at Aravenda that we work with across each vertical of resale. So we have a sneaker innovation team, we have a furniture innovation team, and we're getting constant feedback. I sit in on demos at least once or twice a week. So listening to what people are asking for so that can guide where our roadmap is going, our product roadmap, and making sure that we're making enhancements that benefit 75 to 80% of the users and not just making enhancements for the sake of enhancing, right? But that it's actually, technology is changing really quickly. So one of the things that we hear a lot is people want pictures that revolve. They want 360-degree pictures. We're dependent upon our partners like Shopify and Lightspeed and Clover are our three main partners now. We're dependent on them and what they can handle also, right? So it's not just that Aravenda would love to have spinning pictures, right? So, but that's what I hear from the innovation teams, and that's where I think that's how Salesforce got where they are, and some of the other companies that you mentioned.
Beautiful, thank you. And Aravenda, I can see that all through your website, on all of your let's say public medias and etc. that Aravenda's commitment to sustainability and ethical production, it's something that is important and you focus on that. So could you tell us please, how do you incorporate those values into the services that you offer to your clients, and what is their reaction?
So there's twofold, and it's actually something I've been working on now. We're in the Techstars accelerator program in Oakland, with JP Morgan. So one of the things that we're working on, which you'll see rolled out probably over the next few weeks, is we are creating a certificate program for resellers to be able to measure their economic impact. So we know what the impact is based upon 1 pound of a landfill waste that doesn't make the landfill. So for every pound that they sell, they can get a certificate that has to do with their resale. It's a resale impact certificate. So knowing how many items they sell a day, a week, or a month, we can extrapolate that into an annual number and say this is your impact on the environmental impact for the year, and they can recertify every year as their business grows. So they can display the certificate both in a little symbol on their website, but they can also print one and put it in their store if they want to put something at their checkout or on their wall or something like that. So that's one thing. So the other thing that we're doing is also measuring our economic impact. We have a lot of people who this is the first business they've ever run. So we actually set up a lot of people from scratch who have never run a business before. I'm lucky, I've run a lot of businesses and sold several. So learning from somebody and being able to get on the phone with someone who can help them. Just with the littlest thing like leases or what do I need for insurance? I mean, they have basic questions. They don't have anybody to ask. So we also have a lot of people who start the business from maybe a more economic disadvantaged area, right? So the ability for them to start a business, well, all of a sudden they're making $10,000, $20,000 a month. This is the best part about resale is it's recession proof, and it actually really is a gateway for people to be able to change their own circumstances. So if they're passionate about something, they're passionate about a certain type of thing, they can really make a good living doing resale.
Beautiful. And obviously you see a big value and benefit in doing and in following and focusing on sustainability. But can you tell, why is it so important to you? When was the start point that you decided to start thinking about that?
Well, ultimately, I mean, the impact on the landfill and carbon gas and global warming is a real thing, right? It's not fake news. So this idea, and driven by the sustainable shopping movement, people want to buy secondhand merchandise. So I think it's hard for a smaller business owner to really think about what is their actual impact. But if you add all those up of thousands and there's 150 million people reselling in the United States alone. If we are able to measure their impact, we're able to say, look at the impact that all of these small businesses are making. And I think, having they're more powerful as a group than they are individually. And a lot of people feel like sometimes they're on an island by themselves when they're working in a small business. So pulling that together, that's the part that's important to me, is to be able to support them. And being able to say, hey, this is what I'm doing individually, and have somebody else who's there to help them do it.
Beautiful. Finger crossed. Finger crossed. You describe yourself as a lifelong learner. If you might, could you please share the lessons or experiences that are the most impactful to your personal and professional growth?
Sure.
It can be one, it can be two, it can be three, or more.
Sure. Yeah. Well, in college, I was not a studier, right? I was the social chairman of my sorority for 6 semesters out of 8. So what does that tell you? I was not the educational chair. So but I realized later in life that I have been starting businesses my entire life. My first business was when I was like 14. I made cakes for people, like wedding cakes and birthday cakes and things like that. So I didn't really realize that I had this entrepreneurial spirit until later. And I realized that I learned better experientially, after, as education evolved over time, the way people learn has changed. Classes come in a compressed format versus a whole semester. If you want to take them consecutively at some schools, you can take one class at a time and still get the same number of credits for the semester. So it's interesting how things are evolving and changing all the time. So people are always evolving and changing. So applying to these accelerator programs for Aravenda has been an interesting experience. We were really, really fortunate to be selected by Techstars. It's a global community of about 3,000 companies. I've learned more in 4 weeks of this program that I'm in right now than I have in 4 years of doing all this on my own. It allows you, learning from other people and their perspectives. As a business owner and creator, it's not easy to always surround yourself with people who do similar things, right? In the Techstars program, it's an isolated, narrow community of people who are doing the same things, and many of them are at similar stages. And then the people who have graduated and sold the companies come back and volunteer their time to help people get to the next level. So I would say this is probably one of the more impactful programs that I've done. It's like a mini MBA in 12 weeks in the scheme of things, but I know it's not really the case, but you know what I'm saying? It's very intense. So, and it moves at a very fast pace. So I think this is probably one of the ones that is most impactful.
So your lesson would be to put yourself into environment of like-minded people and to learn, having this experiential learning process instead of just...
Not just out of a book or YouTube.
Not out of the book. Cool. Thank you very much.
Everybody learns from YouTube now, so.
Well, yeah, but sometimes on YouTube there are a lot of interesting podcasts with the real practitioners nowadays. Yeah, but I'm also, I would say the same about myself, that I'm more of experiential learning. I can read 5 times, 6 times, but once somebody just go through the process with me together, one by one, and I'm like, okay, well, it is easy. It is much easier than it was written in the books.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Thank you. Oh, well, thank you very much for sharing your experience. So I'm ready. I'm ready to go to the rapid fire round.
Okay.
Yeah. So your biggest regret?
So I think that there was a time when I was younger and I got invited on a trip, and I didn't go because I was single and they were all couples. Right. And I was like, oh, I can do that anytime. I still have never done that trip. right? So, it was like a windjammer cruise, they called it at the time. I don't know what they're called now, but it was, on a catamaran around the Virgin Islands. And I really wish I would have gone.
Right. You still can.
I know. Technically, yes.
Technically, yeah.
Yes, I can still do it.
Yeah. What is success for you?
What is success?
Yeah. How do you define for yourself today?
So, I'm the I don't know if you know who Susan Lucci is. She was on a soap opera here in the United States, and she was nominated for a Daytime Emmy Award 14 times before she won. So I've been nominated a lot for business awards. I never win any awards. Like it just doesn't happen for me, like for whatever reason.
Okay.
So I'm, like the Women in Business Awards, I never win those. So I guess I'm just a woman who starts and sells businesses. I'm just not a woman in business. I never have figured it out. I figured out the secret sauce. Don't really care either. I just think it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
So, but I think, I set goals every year, and I, measure myself against them. I double check in twice a year with myself and my team. We do this as a group, because you can't be a successful, leader if you don't know what your people are trying to achieve personally and professionally. You can't help them if you don't know. So this is a process that we follow twice a year. In June and December, we talk about where we're at with our goals. So success there is just literally getting things 1% better every day and moving ahead, because 1% better every day is going to make a huge change in 6 months, and in another 6 months, if you just keep with that idea. I mean, knowing that we're moving forward and we're serving people properly, like at Aravenda, is that success.
Well said. Fantastic. Thank you. What is the best thing that happened to you? Something
Today?
that comes to your mind. Let's choose today, and then tell me generally in your life.
I think probably, from a business perspective, participating in this accelerator with Techstars has been probably the best thing that's happened. I've met some amazing people and made some instant fast friends that I would have never met otherwise. Particularly, it's global, so there's people from 4 countries in my cohort. So if anybody's thinking about doing something like this, I would highly recommend applying for a program like this, because it will really help you expand your thinking about your business and the critical levers that you can push in order to make it successful faster. I wish I'd have done it a year ago, but we probably wouldn't have qualified a year ago. So I think that's probably the best thing that's happened, right, in the recent history.
Yeah, awesome. And the very last question for me is, if you met a 10-year-old Carolyn, what would you tell her?
That your golf score will go down. Your handicap will go down. You just have to golf more.
Okay.
It's a lot of practice.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Carolyn. That would be it from my side. Thank you very much for your time again.
Thank you.
It was a great pleasure to have you.
Sure. Thanks for having me.